I'm very delighted to welcome you to this first side event of the 2022 ReSAKSS Conference that's going to discuss CADA biannual review, data challenges, improvements, and way forward.
It is an amazing innovation. We have, however, not pulled everything out of it. We are using it primarily as a tracking and a benchmarking tool. Ideally, it should also be a planning tool.
So you can see that it has gone up from 74% to 80% by the third BR. So that's significant improvement, and most of it we know is coming from introduction of the EBR, which Babaka will be talking about next. But basically what that has done is that it has helped to make the data entry process that the countries are collecting much easier.
Core computation based on the technical guideline. So the EBR is facilitating this process. So here at this stage, the EBR is just taking, the formulas, the different computation needed in the technical guideline and replicate it.
Since the joint sector reviews and the biennial reviews are critical for African agricultural development, please, would those countries, would each country integrate the indicators of interest into those databases so that it is useful?
There is a new level that we have to move to. How do we make sure that the BR serves beyond than just computing data and releasing score? The importance of the improvements that we have been able to experience in the BR process itself. They were possible because as we move from first cycle to the second to the third, lessons were learned, questions were asked, challenges were there to be addressed. As experts were working with open minds, they decided to look at how practical some of the solutions that were in the BR process could be improved on.
We feel that the small-scale farmer can really contribute largely and hugely into the national food security. In Zimbabwe, we have policy documents. I won't say within our ministry, but I'm saying at government, and we call it Vision 2030. And Vision 2030, essentially what it is the upliftment of the livelihoods of each and every Zimbabwean, leaving no place and no one and no place behind.
I think there is a core here that there is need to put more resources to R&D, research and development, very critical for agricultural transformation in any country.
Africa as a whole was failing to achieve the commitment number 5, tripling intra-Africa trade. As responding to that, we often ask ourselves how much behavioral change the BR report brings.
The session today is in dynamics in Africa's agri-food processing and performance of agri-food industries.
Changing urban demand patterns across Africa and supply chain complexity, meaning how you get goods from producers to consumers. They call for us to rethink how we want to go about integrating smallholders into the value chains and into the markets, because that's changing. The distance today separating a smallholder to the consumer is no longer a physical distance. It is now the sophistication of the product itself.
Nigeria has seen a rapid expansion of the poultry subsector. And I'm using the word subsector because I think that even if we're interested in talking about processing, it's important to recognize that the poultry subsector is not only the vertical value chain from production to distribution, but it's a cluster of interrelated supply chains.
First of all, what about production and fruit and vegetable in Africa? We are seeing an increase of fruit and vegetable production the last 20 years. So we are increasing of the 3.3% yearly. But when we look per capita, we are looking that there is more or less no increase. We stay stable, only 1.3% yearly. So it's come this uncomfortable conclusion that Africa has the lowest per capita production and consumption on fruit and vegetable in the world.
Production is rising, as is demand, and Africa's share in meat production globally is rising, although this figure is a little bit deceptive in the sense that Africa's share hasn't really risen because they're out competing other parts of the world, but rather other parts of the world are contracting a little bit.
Parce que les chiffres que nous avons en termes d'évolution d'atteinte des objectifs nous montrent qu'on a failli quelque part au début. Il y a des acteurs qui n'ont pas été impliqués.
I am glad to now move to the next stage, and this is going to be a high-powered panel discussion.
It's important to begin by differentiating the difference between the hard and the soft skills. A skilled workforce is essential in driving innovation and is a prerequisite for development and adoption of new technologies, regardless of the size of the agri-food processing enterprise.
When you talk about clusters, the literature is very clear that there are a lot of benefits for all firms, not necessarily agro-processing firms. So can African agro-processing firms benefit from clusters if they have to be located closer to one another because of the potential benefit that they are likely to derive when they concentrate in these areas?
Firms invested in research and development innovate more than firms without investments. It's very clear. But there are also cases where firms innovate without investing formal R&Ds.
Apart from the cassava flour, we are doing the animal feeds, and we are going to start producing starch. So all those are because of the government trying to empower the women to think out of the box and do things for themselves.
In the international level, you are dealing with international companies, you're dealing in dollars. Your opportunity to take a loan or to be granted a loan is much higher than if you're not dealing in this space, because you're dealing in local currency, which is risk in many situations.
Urban consumers don't want to eat the same things that their relatives who are living on the farm in rural areas are consuming. There's a drive towards the consumption of more processed, more prepared foods.
So I think it will be very important to look at the map of where the major platforms of food processing and food production is happening, and where are the gaps in terms of improving penetration roads and paving roads that will help to accelerate this process of connection.
This session will discuss progress toward achieving the CAADP goals.
Africa improved during the CAADP period its intra-Africa agricultural trade. For example, between 2003 and 2021, the data shows that intra-Africa agricultural trade more than doubled.
We learned that innovation levels are relatively low and have declined over time.
Unless you trade among yourselves, you cannot go anywhere.
Countries are on different stages of the transformation process, growth and development in achieving their national objectives, but also they are on different trajectories.
We may say that all the 15 countries are currently implementing their knives, and actually some are gearing up for their third generation of knives.
You can try to see whether you want to inform a situation, whether you want to address a public issue, or whether you want to compare two competing outcomes.
The consumption pattern is also appearing to be irreversible on the continent. It's changing. But policies at the same time are not moving at the same pace. Aggregation model has not yet been tapped into enough. Yet the model is working and is proving to become a game changer.
We're talking about $45 billion market now. It's going to be more and more of that as we continue to grow and income rise and people demand more food.
On the subject of agro-processing, the key message is that it is happening on the continent. Of course, it's growing at different paces in different countries, but there is no country where you can go and you don't find agro-processing taking place, adding value to all sorts of agricultural products on our continent.
It is my hope that this conference provided a platform that created a dialogue between researchers and policymakers to discuss systems and pathways to strengthen our agriculture, environment, and food systems value chains. I wish you safe journeys. God bless you all. I officially call this conference done, finished.